love hearing amazing travel stories and about beautiful places around the world, but what happens when something goes wrong? What if you are stranded somewhere, or you're caught in a natural disaster? Maybe you got all your stuff stolen, you lost your passport, or you've been abducted. These might sound like, oh, this will never happen, but they do. Today, I'm going to be talking about 10 different scenarios, travel experiences that I've personally had, how I dealt with them, how I overcame them, and what I would do differently, and giving you a list of steps on what you should do in response. Because we might be the most prepared travelers. Maybe we're expert travelers. It doesn't mean we won't find ourselves in certain situations, because we're human, we're not perfect. What do we do when we're in these situations? How do we respond? How do we get through this? That's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Getting your stuff stolen, or worse, robbed. If you've been following my adventures for a while, you will know that my boyfriend and I got all our stuff stolen when we were back in Mexico, right at the beginning of my travels. We had found this tiny little beach spot. Nobody was there. I thought I did the smart thing, and I actually hid my bag in the plants so nobody would see it. It wasn't visible to anybody. As we were snorkeling, we did see a few people kind of pass through, but every time we'd be looking and making sure it was okay, and nobody ever headed towards that bag, at least not that I thought. And this is where I think, you know, maybe these people had been following us, because I don't really know how they found the bag, but they did, and they took everything, leaving us stranded there in just our swimsuits. Eventually, I just started flagging everybody down. I got the cops there, told them everything that happened. They ended up taking us back to the police station, because now we had lost the keys to our vehicle, so we couldn't even go anywhere. There, I explained the whole scenario. They wrote down the date and time. I got access to a computer, which was really good, because then I could go and contact everybody my family and friends, and tell them what had happened, which is very important. I also contacted our Airbnb, because if we somehow get off this island, we're not going to be able to get into where we're supposed to sleep at night. So I had sent a message there. Thankfully, the Airbnb lady had read my messages, and the door was unlocked when we got back to our place. So we were able to get in and have a place to sleep. So that was good. But now we're faced with more issues. We have no money, and we still had another week to stay in Mexico. I honestly didn't know what to do at this point. I tried to get my bank card shipped to us, but I had some issues with my bank, and they didn't want to ship it abroad for starters. They wouldn't do it any quicker. It was 5 to 7 business days, and I was like, lady, I'm gonna starve in 5 to 7 business days. You can actually wire money via Western Union. You just need to have a passport, and then they'll give you the cash. And there happened to be a Western Union in the Walmart. If you do not have your passport, then you need to go to the closest consulate or embassy. When you go there, then they will help you to getting a new passport, and they will also loan you money if that's what you need. The other thing you need to do, which I messed up on, is you need to get a copy of that police report. If you have that police report, you can give it to the travel insurance and hopefully be reimbursed for majority, or if not everything that you lost. And then also, you need that copy of the police report to give to the embassy or consulate. It's also a very good idea to keep a copy of your passport in multiple places. So I have a photo on my phone, I have a copy on my email in case I ever need it, and then my parents have a scanned version. You never know when you're gonna need it, and more so for the consulate. You know, you lost your passport, you need a new one, you need to prove your citizenship. Keep backup cash somewhere in your bag. If you travel with a credit card and a debit card, which I do, keep them separate. Do not keep them in the same wallet. The next thing I want to talk about is bank fraud, because this has happened to me actually, I think 2 or 3 times since I've been traveling in 2.5 years, and it can really ruin your trip. First of all, make sure you're constantly monitoring your transactions. 1, to help you with budgeting, and 2, to make sure there's no fraudulent payments. If it does happen, first thing you need to make sure you do is that you have enough money on you in that currency of that country to survive. Do not call your bank and be like, hey, there's fraudulent payments, because they're going to cancel your card. And now, how am I supposed to survive here? Everybody's bank's different. I was able to get a card sent to me in Romania when I had bank fraud, and they sent it for free via US mail. It took about 5 to 7 business days. Now, actually, at the time, I didn't pull out money, so I had to borrow money, and that can be really awkward when you're in a foreign country and you don't necessarily know people and you have to ask people for money. To avoid potential bank fraud, make sure you're going to ATMs that have cameras, or that they're attached to banks. That's even better. If you accidentally leave your card in the ATM, which I've done, then you can actually go to the bank and get it back. And 2 it's less likely that the actual ATM is a scam, which happens. Actually, back in Bali, Kuta, which is the area around the airport, is known for that. And so they always recommend don't be pulling out of ATMs in Kuta in Bali. If you already have, don't do that anymore. And actually, I think that caused me to have bank fraud when I was in Bali, and all of a sudden I saw on my bank account that magically I was in Jakarta. Never been to Jakarta. The other thing, when you withdraw money, a receipt drops from the machine. Make sure you grab that receipt. Don't be leaving it on the floor. I constantly see receipts on the floor, and that's not a good idea. You don't know who's watching from afar. You don't know if somebody is somehow going to get your PIN number. Now they've got this receipt and put two and two together. I would also avoid like train stations and subways. They also tend to take a higher fee. I mean, honestly, if you want to be safe, just look up where are the safe places to pull out money. The last thing I would do is turn your VPN on. Well, first of all, get a VPN. I think it's really important for traveling because you're using insecure Wi-Fi networks. Every time you go to a cafe or a hotel or whatever, they could tap into your stuff and steal your personal information, steal your bank cards. My YouTube also recently crashed out of nowhere. I have no idea why, but I'm gonna blame the Wi-Fi at the cafe I was using. Like, I don't know. I don't understand computers so much. I don't know what people can do and hack your stuff, but like, I don't want to risk it. Anytime I'm logging onto my bank, I turn my VPN on and I say I'm in the US. Let's talk about getting sick. I get sick a lot. Now, first of all, it's very important that you have travel health insurance. If you don't have health insurance and you're traveling and you get in some serious health issues, you get in an accident, I don't know what could happen to you. A lot. You might have to go to a hospital and you're going to be hit with a hefty bill. I mean, I complain about student loan debt. That's going to kill me. But that doesn't mean that you want to be going to doctors all the time in all these foreign countries. So I also recommend, there are actually online doctors, or you like call in doctors, and you can call them and explain your symptoms, and they can advise you on maybe what's going on and what medications you should take. It also can tell you if it's worth spending the money to go to the doctor, which it might not be. It's a really easy way to evaluate what's going on, especially if you're too sick to get out of bed and you just call the doctor. My boyfriend's family happens to be like all doctors, so it's been really helpful for us because since I'm always getting sick, I'm always calling his mom or sister, and so I've never needed to really call the doctor. That's because I have these doctors to call. You can also just go to the pharmacy, explain your symptoms, and a lot of times they'll tell you what you need. Not always, but sometimes this does work. You could try the local medicine. I've definitely tried some natural things, and I don't know if they worked, but you do what you gotta do. If you have stomach issues, which can happen a lot from traveling to foreign countries, especially when you're eating street food. It's delicious, it's cheap, but damn, it can cause some repercussions. You want to prevent it or want to help it, buy yourself probiotics or just eat a lot of yogurt and whatever foods have probiotics. I'm allergic to dairy, so that's not really an option for me. That would definitely make the situation worse. And then last, stay hydrated. You really need to be drinking 2 liters of water per day minimum. That's half a gallon. You should drink more than that. I carry a water bottle at all times because then I see it and then I'm more inclined to drink it, but seriously, water cures all. Now, what do you do if you get drugged? I'm talking about this issue because it happens all over the world. Honestly, this is gonna be a lot worse if you're traveling because now you're in a foreign place, you don't exactly know where to get help, you're maybe not surrounded around people that you know or feel like you can really trust. This happened to me in the Philippines. I talked about it in one of my videos and it was a horrifying experience, but I got through it mainly because I was with my friend Jordan. When I got drugged, I couldn't walk, I couldn't see, and my friend had to take me back to our Airbnb, and I immediately threw up, and that was very good. I threw up, and then maybe 5 minutes later, I felt way better, and I didn't feel drugged anymore. What I realized is if you get drugged and you realize something's wrong, because at that time I knew something was wrong. I was like, I've never had this experience before, and it escalated really quickly. I did at that time think I was drugged. I was like, Jordan, I think you need to call the ambulance. I think I should have, at that time, honestly forced myself to throw up and get it out of my system. Throw up and drink a lot of water. Have somebody help you get home. Okay, this topic I'm talking about, not that it happened to me, but actually happened to a friend of mine. You know, this stuff happens, so what do you do? How do you respond? How do you get through this? So I'm gonna be sharing her experience. I met this girl right when I started traveling. When I first went to Costa Rica and I was volunteering at an organic farm, and she was there with me, and she told me this story of when she had been traveling in Africa with her friend. They had met some guy and they'd been talking for a few hours. He was super cool and he offered them a ride back to their hotel. She was already a prepared traveler. She'd been traveling a lot longer before that, and she's actually even a tour guide. So she runs tours in different countries. So she's prepared, okay? She's a travel expert. They had been talking to this guy and thought, okay, he's really friendly. I mean, specifically when you're traveling alone, like, you do have to have faith in humanity, and you do need to, like, be able to put yourself out there and meet people and trust people. The situation, yeah, she shouldn't have gotten in the car with this guy, but she did, okay? So they got in the car, he was going to the hotel, and all of a sudden he took the wrong turn. He kind of took them to the middle of nowhere, stopped the car, and then a bunch of guys jumped into the car with weapons in their hands. They locked it, closed all the windows, and started driving and said, we're going to an ATM, you need to pull out money. Now, of course, they're in severe panic mode. So my friend, she said she was feeling kind of sick at the time. So she asked the guys, can you please roll down the windows a little bit? Like, I feel sick, I need some air. And they said, absolutely not. So then she asked, well, what about turning down the music? Can you turn down the music? Because it's hurting my head. And this is what she told me that I thought was very important to note. She said they turned down the music, and that's when I realized I would be okay. They took them to the ATM. She pulled out all the money, the maximum she could pull out, gave it to them, and then they left them on the side of the road. Now, obviously, they did lose the money, and it wasn't the ideal situation, but they were not harmed, and she actually did get all the money back. She has a bank, that's awesome, or maybe travel insurance. I don't exactly remember, but she got all the money back. None of them were harmed. It's just more the experience that kind of, is scarring a bit, I think it's really important to understand from this situation is, number one, remain calm as you can. Causing more drama and hitting or anything can make the situation way worse. So remain calm, just do what they say, make sure they're happy, give them the money, and really look for those key signs. Because she found that sign that, okay, they're not gonna hurt us, we're gonna survive, she was able to have a little bit of peace and go about whatever it is that they wanted. She was able to do it and get through it. So let's just pretend the worst happened. You're in an emergency situation. What do you do? When I was in Bali, I did experience one earthquake, actually on my birthday. It was the one that hit Lombok, a 6.4 magnitude.
I met you in the sun, saw my plans come undone, 'cause I knew you were the one. So we, from Paris on one knee, with a letter and a ring, got married.